And welcome in, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. We have a heat wave going through Europe right now. It passed over where I'm living yesterday, and we had quite a deep temperature drop, at least where I'm living. So it's actually nice in my office today, so it's good environment for recording the podcast. So yeah, welcome in. And yeah, so we had some interesting developments since the last podcast. Of course, most noteworthy, Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference. And we are going to talk quite a bit about that today and several other stuff. Yeah, first of all, I want to say hi to everyone basically who recently followed or subscribed, depending on where you are watching, either on Twitch or on YouTube. And yeah, welcome in, because there have been quite a few people newly joining. And yeah, welcome in, and I hope you enjoy the content. Quick reminder, if you are missing on YouTube the gaming content, I switched that over to a new channel, so you can find it on my main channel at the bottom. There you can also see the streams that came up there. And yeah, normally I would have had a Beat Saber stream Friday morning, but Thursday night got a bit long for me, and I had a pretty important thing on Friday, so I said no, I rather take the sleep. Was thinking of doing the Beat Saber stream on yesterday morning, but it was just already too darn hot. I think yesterday morning at 7 a.m. or so, I already had 27 degrees in my apartment, and yeah, that was not going to make it. So yeah, that's an update on that front. So I hope everyone is doing well. Yeah, we yesterday were able to visit someone to get into a pool and get some refreshing time during the hot day. So it wasn't too bad, it was manageable. So yeah, but especially in Western Europe, temperatures were even higher than they were here. And I don't know how it's now in the rest of Germany, especially because they're now having the heat wave that we had yesterday. But I'm actually happy that my circulatory system did not have issues with the temperature drop, because we dropped basically 10 degrees overnight. So that was quite heavy. Okay, yeah. Quick preview of our topics for today. When I'm actually going, I'm always back. I have to make use of my Stream Deck more. There we go. So here we have the show notes for today. And topic-wise, yeah, as I said earlier, WWDC is a big topic. The announcement there. Technology-wise, of course, Apple announced the M2 architecture, but much more interesting for me personally was the announcement of Metal 3, Apple's updated graphics API for iOS, macOS, and iPadOS. Then we had a big news dropping that the EU reached an agreement in regards to unified phone chargers. there have been talks started in regards to senators in the US considering creating a bill to ban, at least in regards to medical information, data brokers. Then there are new rumors in regards to the power consumptions of the NVIDIA RTX 40 series. New rumors in regards to the Ryzen 7000 launch. Then we have a follow-up because we discussed in a previous episode Pico launching their headsets in Germany as a trial, or not only Germany, in Europe as a trial run. And that seemed to have worked, so they are now expanding into the US, and also an update to the Apple XR headset, which is our closing topic. And when you go to the show notes, you find all the links to all the articles that I will be referencing today. And on the page here, of course, is also the stream. Which will be available as VOD after the fact. So if you're not able to make each episode, you can rewatch it on YouTube. Okay, yeah. What else? There was something else I wanted to talk about prior to the recording, and I actually forgot it. I was talking in previous streams about my review of the sword controllers from Pimax and and my Steam Deck review, but till now I did not find the time to do those. So let's see. I hope next week I will be able to do them. Especially there have been some developments in regards to the sword controllers, so I will have to retest the games that I showed in my initial impressions video, because Pimax made improvements to the controller bindings with the latest PyTool update. So that's something that we will be looking at, that I will be looking into for the final review. And and if you're interested, also Pimax has currently a raffle going on, or a giveaway going on, for 5K Super and 8KX headsets. If you check my Twitter, I retweeted their tweet a few days ago, so you can find it that way. And if you're interested in that, oh, is my Phantom Bot instance down again? Let me quickly check that. Live stream troubles. So that should be the right one. No, that's not the right one. Oh. Yeah. Connecting to the wrong host. That explains it. Where is it? Phantom. Where is it? Okay, so that's restarted. Let's try again. There you go. Okay, that's now working as well. And of course, if you want to get to the show notes that you're seeing on screen right now, here is the direct link. Let's see if that actually works. Okay, yeah, that works. Perfect. Okay. Then I would say let's get started. We are now almost 40 minutes in, so I think we can start. Where is it? Let me stop the music. And let's do the countdown. Actually, I should switch scenes first. So we are ready and set up. Okay, now we can do the countdown.
3, 2, 1.
And welcome to my technology podcast. I'm your host, Bastian Noffer, and this is episode 21, recorded on June 19th, 2022. And as discussed in last episodes, mainline topic of this episode will be Apple's WWDC, so their worldwide developer conference that basically started one day after the last episode recording, and we have some interesting developments on these things, and some other interesting topics. So let's dive right into those. Here we have the show notes for today, and if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, you will find them in the video or podcast description. And if you're not able to get to that, you can go to my blog BNOnet.com, and it should be available right away when you're basically listening in the next 2 days. If not, there is a section episodes or live streams where you can get to the individual show notes, because I'm actually splitting the show notes for the streams and the episodes, because if something changes in between, if I add something, then you always have the up to date information for the recording. As I said, topic wise, we are starting with the major announcements from Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference 2022. Then one part of that, but I put it separately for today, is the announcement for Metal 3, Apple's new graphics API for iOS and macOS, and what basically that means for gaming on Mac, or also even on other devices, because as you might know or might not know, the iPad Air from Apple and the iPad Pro line, they also feature already the M1 processors. So you have pretty comparable features on those devices. So performance could be very similar. So it's interesting what you can run on these now, and we're going to go into more detail on these things later. Then the next major news is that the EU now has reached an agreement in regards to universal phone chargers. The next one is also political, is that there are some US senators that are considering a ban of data brokers, at least in the medical field. Then we have new rumors on the NVIDIA RTX 40 series power consumption. And followed by that, we have updated rumors in regards to the Ryzen 7000 launch. Then also follow up to a previous episode, Pico is expanding their VR AR headsets into the US. And of course, since I was mentioning it in the last episode, we have an update on the Apple's XR headset rumors. Yeah, so that's quite a few topics, and I hope you enjoy. Let me quickly organize my screens here. Okay, perfect. So yeah, then let's dive into the first topic right away. And that's the major announcements from WWDC. And that's, for me at least, in regards to technology market, the announcement of the M2 chip, the second generation of Apple Silicon, and noteworthy changes to the M1 is basically it gains 2 additional graphics cores. It also gains the media engine that was only in the M1 Pro and upwards chips, and it has a higher clock speeds and a bit of IPC improvements. So not major changes. So it's a bit larger. It's not showing on this article from Mac Rumors here, but it will give you about 50 to 20% performance increases from the slides that I showed. And yeah, so it's a nice upgrade. And Apple, along with this announcement, announced 2 new products running this. And majorly the interesting one is the new iPad Air. This is now a new design that is based on the design of the new MacBook Pros that we saw last year, but since it doesn't have the HDMI, and this is again a fully passively cooled design, so it has no fans. Therefore, they were able to make it thin. So it's the bottom case is basically not much larger than a headphone port, like you can see here on the picture. This is also an article on Mac Rumors, and yeah, so it's an interesting design. It's a better display. I think if I read the specs correctly, it's more comparable to the older MacBook Pro displays, not the current generation one with XDR, but it's a definite upgrade. It has the new 1080p camera and so on. So this is a very compelling package, I think, for most people who want to get a Mac. So even if you're a developer, since that was actually one thing that I missed for the M2, you can get these things now with 24 gigs of RAM. And having more RAM with this kind of CPU, I think most developers, for example, also app developers, web developers, who like to run a Mac, you will be satisfied with these things already. It's because they are pretty powerful, and yeah, it's good, basically good price. They are starting at I think around $1,200, and you can still get the old iPad Air for $1,000. I don't know right now, right off my head, what's the the euro pricing in Germany. But these options are very, very compelling. And if you don't, especially also now, if you're doing like light video editing, even if you're doing 4K, the iPad Air is now really an option. So if for me, I upgraded to a Mac from a Mac Mini M1 last year to a MacBook Pro 14-inch with an M1 Max due to the lackluster video performance, especially when you're doing 4K editing or when you have a lot of effects. And the media engine helps a lot with that. And I think also if you're a power user, especially when you're also doing video editing, 16 gigs is a bit tricky, especially when we're talking unified memory, but 24 gigs should be already fine. And yeah, so also due to the way macOS handles the memory management with the unified memory, it should be really really fine, and you don't have to spend the $2,000 for a MacBook Pro, especially if you're not really doing really extreme color accurate work and so on. But even for that, the displays will be more than fine. Of course, if you need more screens, because this is one limitation that the M2 actually inherits from the M1, is a limitation of one external display. But now there are actually also solutions for that. I don't remember the manufacturer, but there is now a solution that utilizes display link for basically attaching additional monitors. And I have to say, since I'm also using display link solution when I'm in the office at the moment, that's fine. It works good. So I don't have a problem with that. And if you just needed this secondary monitor, then it's totally fine. So you have your primary, which will be fully driven by the MacBook, and then you will have the one that is display link driven, and it should be completely fine. So it depends on the scenario, but I think for most people, the new MacBook Air is the way to go if you want to get into the professional use of an Apple notebook. Of course, it depends. If you're using SD cards, this still doesn't have an SD card slot. Nice change is, of course, you cannot see this here. You can see it basically on the video image here. The new MacBooks also have gained the MagSafe port back, so you can now charge without losing one of your two Thunderbolt ports, and therefore you have more. You can connect more accessories again, which is a good thing. And yeah, so I think for most people, the new MacBook Air is the way to go if you're looking in to get into the MacBook ecosystem. Also announced was a refresh of the old 13-inch MacBook Pro design with the old screen, old bezels, still with a touch bar and the whole 9 yards. And everyone you ask basically in the tech community says, why Apple? This computer is so irrelevant that doesn't make any sense. Price wise and so on. There have been configuration examples. If you basically take a configuration of this notebook that makes sense and spec out a M2 MacBook Air, you basically reach the same price. And the only major difference is, yeah, the M2 here is air cooled, and it has a few performance points more, but I think in real life it doesn't really matter. So I would take the advantages of the new design and better screen, better microphones, better camera, better audio, and so on and so forth anytime compared to getting the new MacBook Pro, the new 13-inch MacBook Pro. And that's actually showing. We're getting to that a bit later in the show. And yeah, so basically all the WWDC articles, so just in case I forget to mention it, they're all from Mac Rumors. More interesting were the announcements for iPadOS, which actually are good news for those people who got iPads with M1 chip. Because Apple announced now that they are bringing this feature of Stage Manager, which was also announced for the new macOS to iPadOS, which for the first time gives you support for Windows on iPadOS. And the results from people trying it are mixed. So it might suit you, it might not suit you. But a big thing is also that you gain full screen support now for external displays, which means that you don't have the issue anymore that you basically only have the iPad screen mirrored with black bars on your display. So you can actually now use full resolution external displays with your iPad. There was one other thing, if I remember correctly. Yeah, but it's also important to say that those two changes are basically limited to the M1 iPads. So I, for example, have the predecessor iPad Air with the A14, which I think should not be that much less powerful than the A15, which the M1 is derived of. Therefore, it's a bit questionable why they did not allow that. But yeah. And of course, I think in my iPad still has Lightning, so that's also a reason, because I think it has display support, but depends on how it's implemented. So that must be another reason. And it seems also like there is a reference mode now. That was it in the iPadOS. There's now a reference mode for creators, so that you can have proper colors and so on. So pretty nice update for iPadOS. Not like sadly not for everyone, and it's a move into the right direction though. So adding features to make your iPad more productive is a good thing. And yeah, everything else from iPadOS, iOS, macOS, there wasn't really anything where I say, oh, that's something that's just changing stuff. But I think these developments for iPadOS are major, and therefore I included them here. Last but not least, this week's Friday, so Friday the 17th of June, Apple already started pre-orders for the new MacBook Pro. The new MacBook Air will be able to be pre-ordered in July, and I think this MacBook still ships. The MacBook Pro still ships in no, it will also begin with in-store availability next Friday, or this Friday, so June 24th. And yeah, the MacBook Air will still be in July. And yeah, so if you're desperate to get your hands on an M2, you can already get it. And if I read it correctly, first configuration, CTO configurations of the MacBook Pro already are slipping into delivery for August. And but basically, it's still available, and sales was not as hyped up as you would normally see, or that as we saw last year. And yeah, that's probably due to the lackluster package of the MacBook Pro. And our next topic, which is also WWDC related, is the announcement of Metal 3, Apple's new updated graphics API for their platforms, which will support upscaling, similar like Fidelity FX, Super Resolution from AMD, and DLSS from NVIDIA. And it will also have a feature that will be similar to Microsoft Smart Access Memory to have access for to the game data much more quickly, which of course also makes sense with the unified memory system. And I think Metal FX is that particular. Is basically the new upscaling framework, and with that they've also announced that No Man's Sky will be coming to Mac. It will get a native port utilizing the Metal FX technology, and yeah, I think the other title that also was announced is Resident Evil Village, which will also be coming to the Mac. And if I got that correctly, those titles are Windows DirectX 12 titles. And that was a big hurdle till now in regards to porting games over. Because I forgot to mention this, this article here that I'm referencing now is from Apple Insider, and the reason why it's interesting to see these developments and those games coming to macOS now. In theory, they should be running fine as well on the M1 iPads. Yeah, it's already also mentioning here it's coming to macOS and iPadOS in the fall. And this is important because these functionalities and the updates to the APIs, they bring Metal more into feature parity with Vulkan, which is a huge complaint in the gaming industry right now, or in the graphics industry, because Vulkan is developing to the basically de facto cross-platform standard for Linux and Windows gaming, and there is a lot of work done there, and a lot of games are switching to that most engines start to support it, and since it's an open standard, it would have been ideal for Apple also to support it. But yeah, that's not done. And however, getting closer to feature parity with Vulkan is a good thing, because there is a framework called MoltenVK, which is also created by the same group that is creating the Vulkan specification, which is called MoltenVK. I am showing here a video by Andrew Tsai. He is also the creator, or even one of the people basically supporting the Apple Gaming Wiki, and which has a lot of information for M1 based gaming on Mac. And he did a video right after the keynote about this, and and basically getting this parity will help developers port their games over to the Mac, because you can then integrate MoltenVK if you're using already Vulkan, and MoltenVK handles the Vulkan to Metal translations. So potentially this, if the updates to MoltenVK get implemented by more developers, we could see much more M2 or M1 compatible games in the future. And this is, in my opinion, a good thing, because the M1 or the Apple Silicon chips, they are powerful. And now that you can use upscaling, because the power that the chips have, that doesn't really match the resolution of the screens that Apple is putting into it, into those devices. So an M1 or M2 will not be able to drive a game like No Man's Sky or Resident Evil Village in native resolution of the internal display. Which means a technology like MetalFX will help here dramatically. And allowing those features now will enable more games to run properly on Mac, which is basically really giving new life to the Mac also as a gaming platform. And I myself actually have been playing on my Mac more recently, because I was watching some streams and so on, and I have been playing City Skylines on the side, and it was working great. I think it's even run through Rosetta. It's definitely, it's not an an App Store game. I'm running it through Steam, and it works flawlessly. It's running great, and this revitalizes for me the Mac also as a potential gaming platform. There are improvements for, I think in the new Mac OS and iPad OS, there are also improvements for gamepads and so on. So Apple is working on improving gaming, and it could be that this also is in preparation for the new XR AR headset, to support, in order to support more games. And we're getting to an update on that later, as I said earlier. And I am looking forward to seeing what Apple is doing here. And I actually hope that, for example, No Man's Sky is not going to be App Store exclusive as M1 version, that Hello Games is able to release it on Steam, because I have it on Steam, and I would be really happy to play the game via my Mac, so for example. Of course, I can play it on my PC that I'm using primarily for gaming. But having the option is a nice opportunity. Then next up, also Apple related, because it's impacting primarily Apple when you talk about new phones and so on. This is again an article on Mac Rumors. The EU basically reached a preliminary agreement to force basically unified charging standards for smartphones, cameras, and tablets, which means USB-C on everything. And that's amazing news. As there were rumors that Apple is already working on USB-C iPhones, and the iPads have been on USB-C for quite a while now. That should not be impacting Apple too drastically, but it's the right move. And we should hope that legislators keep up with updating this enforcement once new standards arise, so that we are not getting stuck into one then at some point potentially obsolete technology. I think for now, talking also Thunderbolt, which is using the same port, which I don't even know, Thunderbolt 4 is 20 or 40 gigabits per second, which is plenty of bandwidth. At least at the moment, so you can do a lot with those connectors at the moment. So this should be fine for quite a few years to come. And yeah, this development in Europe seems to have stirred up also things in the US. This is now a article on Engadget. Senators in the US are now also calling for the same. Which, as I said earlier, is a good thing. So enforcing those rules on more places, especially in the places where most of the tech companies are basically headquartered, I think is a good thing. Of course, Android phones are not really impacted on that. And cheap phone manufacturers are finally getting forced away from micro USB if they want to sell in the US and the EU, which are both, of course, huge markets in those industries. It's a good thing. And the only thing is, I don't really count the argument of getting stuff out of the landfills, because people will get new phones at some point, and if everything has finally switched over to USB-C, you will have plenty of lightning cables and so on and so forth lying around, and they will go to the dumps. And that's not really available unless we at some point go really fully wireless. I can change my phone and my wireless charger will still work with my new phone. And I think that's really the future, going wireless fully, because that will finally keep stuff out of the landfills. Because once you have a wireless charging infrastructure in at your home and so on, it doesn't matter what charger it is, and it's fine when the manufacturers don't deliver wireless chargers with their phones, because you will have your infrastructure in place for that anyway, and that will reduce waste in the end, if you ask me. And to keep in the political arena, there are now talks by some senators in the US to ban data brokers selling health and location information. And I think in the EU, for example, this data brokers are illegal anyway already, and this is a major thing. Like for companies like Facebook, is working quite heavily with data brokers to capitalize on their user information, and this development that this is finally being talked about is in the US is long overdue, if you ask me, especially with health and location information, because you can use those for targeting, profiling, and so on quite heavily, and you can also do a lot of very nefarious things with those information. So this is long overdue, and I hope that this bill is going to make it. Of course, there will be exceptions for stuff that is really medical related and is handled according to medical standards. Those standards in the US are called HIPAA, and these standards are actually a reference in a lot of countries worldwide. I think Canada, for example, uses HIPAA compliance as a reference as well, and yeah, so this is a good thing, in my opinion, and we will have to observe and wait and see and how legislation is really implemented, but at least it's not talked about. And if you ask me, data brokers should be fully illegal in the, even also in the US, because there is so much damage that can be done, and people don't know what is happening with their data and which companies are in possession of that. And yeah, so putting more control on where your personal informations are going is not a bad thing. But as always with proposed bills, you have to see how strong that bill in the end will be and how much it will be enforced. And yeah, so this is all to be taken with quite a grain of salt. And now we are switching over to the PC arena. And we have new rumors for the power consumption of the RTX 40 series from NVIDIA. And according to this rumor, the cards could have a power limit, or a maxed power limit, of 800 watts. We knew about 650 in the past, but 800 watts is just nuts. So if I got that correctly, the AD102, oops, didn't want to do that. The AD102, this article here is now on video cards. The AD102 is 800 watts, has a power limit of 800 watts. I think the AD102 is the 4090. The 103, which probably is the 4080, is 450 watts. The 104 is 400 watts, and the 106 is 260 watts. So 104 should be 4070, and 106 is probably the 4060. And yeah, mobile power values are also higher, but yeah, they are sub 200 watts, which is expected in regards to the current chargers that are available for notebooks. So that's totally fine. But basically, that means if you are building a high-end computer with a 40 series card, even if you're getting a 4080 or a 4070 with a high tier desktop CPU, you should be getting at least an 800 or 850 watts power supply. And if you're going balls to the walls with an 4090, you probably should be getting a 1600 watt power supply, because if Intel continues with the power drain, their current 12th gen Core i9 to 12900K can draw almost 300 watts. So you need something between 1200 and upwards of 1200 watts. And if your system could theoretically peak at 1100 watts, 100 watts on headroom is not much. So you will have to go to 1400 or 1600 watts. And in a world where power is costing more and more, I find actually this development a bit troublesome. And also when you add up with GPU pricing going up as well. So yeah, you have to be a rich person to run a rig with that GPU. On another note, going over to Team Red now, there is a rumor that Ryzen 7000 could go on sale on September 15th. So yeah, and I actually did not see that earlier. They also have a date for Radeon 7000, which is for late October to mid-November, which would match the launch of the Radeon 6000 series back in 2020. So yeah, those are the new timeframes. And to remain on the same topic of the Ryzen 7000 launch, we have rumors about the CPUs that will actually be launching then, which will be the 7950X, 7900X, 7800X, and 7600X. And basically this matches the lineup that AMD had for the Ryzen 5000 launch. Do they have TDP figures here for those? No, only for the 7950X. Yeah, but here we have 170 watts, and yeah, which is quite a bit lower than what Intel is doing. I think we talked about that last time, so will be interesting to see, especially as I also mentioned earlier, and NVIDIA is going bolts to the walls with their 4000 series in regards to power consumption. And in a previous episode, we discussed rumors that the Radeon 7000 series, that is also rumored to launch this year, might be a lot more power efficient. So while being much faster. There were rumors that the equivalent of a 6600, so a 7600, if I remember correctly, or was it a 7700? I don't remember right now. But basically, a mid-tier GPU should be having the same or nearly the same performance as a current generation 6900 XT, while only drawing about 200 watts. And if you compare that to what currently those GPUs and also the equivalent 3090 or 3080 Ti from NVIDIA are drawing on power, that would be a completely different direction. And AMD in the high power prices environment would have really an upper hand in regards to sales pitches, because people would be buying those cards probably in the mainstream market much more than the NVIDIA cards, because people will be saving money when they're running their rigs. And another follow-up. We had on a previous episode that ByteDance was testing their new Pico headsets. The Pico Neo 3 Link they tried this in the Pico Neo 3 Link in Europe for a price point of 450 euros. And basically this was a trial run, and now it seems like they are satisfied with that and are now going to sell this in the US market as well, to compete with Meta and the Quest 2. So the price point wise, the package is pretty compelling, and compared to the Quest 2. Of course, depending on what's coming up next with the next Quest update, it could change a bit. And yeah, it will be interesting to see how the headset competes. So this article here is from Road to VR. And I think this paragraph here is pretty interesting. To attract consumers, the company has essentially feature matched a few notable Quest 2 specs with the Neo 3 Link, such as its Qualcomm XR2 chipset, so the next, it's a next, and ability to tether to a PC to play SteamVR content, albeit through DisplayPort 1.4 and not Quest 2's USB-C. It also features a standard 256 gigabyte of storage and a 5300 milliamp hour battery located in the headset's strap, the latter of which is similar to Quest 2's Elite battery strap in terms of balance and ergonomics at no added price. Which means if you add the Quest 2, you get the higher storage version, and you add the Elite strap, the pricing of the Pico Neo 3 Link is very competitive. Yeah, now here there are also listing some games that are compatible and so on headset, and it will be $400 in the US, it seems. So more competition in the VR space, which is a good thing, because in the end, more competition brings down prices and enables more people to play it. And I'm actually really excited about that. We talked in the last episode about how much traction the VR market has gained in 2021, and this can only propel it forward. And I'm excited for that. And I'm excited for new games coming out. And our closing topic for today is an update to Apple's XR headset. As I said in the last episode, I was expecting to at least hear about the headset during the WWDC keynote, but it did not happen. And analyst Ming-Chi Kuo now is saying that it's an announcement is expected for January of next year. And basically said, according to Kuo, Apple will hold an event in January to reveal the product, with tools for developers shipping within 2 to 4 weeks after the event. Pre-orders for the headset will start in the second quarter of 2023, with customers able to purchase the headset before next year's WWDC. Which I personally have to say is a timeline that doesn't match for me. as I said in the last episodes, developers need time to bring their stuff over to the new platform. And you will not be able to just reuse other games that you already have. I don't think that this will be possible to do in just under 6 months. Let's say 4 months. I think Apple is cutting it a bit close here. But of course, I'm not Apple. And yeah. So I was wrong with in regards to the WWDC announcement. And yeah. So that's it. And looking forward to what's coming up. As I said earlier, when we talked about the Metal 3 support, which could also be pretty important for this device here. So it could be that the Metal 3 update is a result of the headset. And yeah, there is not much more to say about that, actually. So that's it in regards to topics for today. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the topics, you enjoyed the discussions that we had today. And next episode will be recorded on July 3rd at 2 p.m. CEST on yeah, the same place, same time, same bad channel, basically. And yeah, if you want to follow along with updates, what I'm doing, what I'm up to, best places are actually my Discord and my Twitter. Those are the best places to follow. So the Discord link is on the blog if you're watching or listening to the recording. And my Twitter is twitter.com/BNOFfer. And I think, yeah, also the details are shown here. You should have them right on screen here, so you can write them down if you're watching the VOD. For those on chat who are watching live, I posted them in the chat. Yeah, and that's actually it. So, thank you very much for watching, everyone, and listening. And I hope you have some nice 2 weeks, because we are starting summer this week. And enjoy your time. And thank you very much again for watching and listening. Bye, everyone. So that concludes the recording portion. So for those who are still here, we are, of course, again opening the floor for comments and discussions. So feel free to jump in with comments, questions. If not, we are going to close down in a few minutes. Actually check. Yeah, so what's happening in the industry, and I'm excited to see what the next half of the year brings us in all the spaces. So now basically the summer hole begins, where not much news is going to happen. I think WWDC is basically the one that, or in the past Computex when it was in June, we're closing the first half news cycle basically. And now we are approaching the second half of the year, where we will have probably much less news. As always, if you have suggestions for topics, feel free to jump in and comment on the videos. Also, if you're interested in just watching particular topics. I'm releasing again all the different topics as segments on YouTube. So if you don't want to watch through over an hour of content and you want to pick the topics that I'm discussing, feel free to do that. And yeah, I am not seeing any questions or comments, so therefore I would say we are going to call it for today. Therefore, thank you very much for watching. Next stream will probably be Beat Saber on Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. CEST. It might be depending on things are going tonight, because I have normally my roleplay session today, but we have some people who were sick in the past few days. So I have to check if we're having that session. If we're not having that session, I'm considering doing a Star Citizen stream tonight. So that depends a bit. Therefore, I cannot make any promises for that. But yeah, so that's that. Then again, thank you very much for watching, and have a nice rest of your Sunday. And you enjoy the nice weather, and see you in 2 weeks.